Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport Podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to give a gentle reminder as always to our listeners and viewers to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. We have a busy show again this week, and in a few minutes we're going to be joined by Bandon's Conor Hourihane to chat about his recent move to Swansea City. We'll also chat to Jason Collins, who's recently been appointed chairperson of St Mary's GAA Club at only 29 years old. Jason must be among the youngest club chairs in the country, so we'll ask him about his plans for his time in the role. But Kieran, before we hear from Conor, I just want to quickly touch on something that we haven't spoken about much recently, and that is the continued shutdown of amateur sport in the county and across the country. At this stage, we all know about the seriousness of the pandemic and the increased case numbers post-Christmas. But is it just me, or has there been little or no discussion about when amateur sport might restart? I saw the AIL have written off their season, but are you hearing anything from the GAA, the grassroots level, soccer, club rugby, anything of that nature? Are we hearing anything, or is it just a wait and see approach still?
It is a very much a wait and see approach at the moment. Go on for it's been spoke about March 5th is the next sort of date in mind, but it seems in terms of what the government want, it's kind of the schools and the building sites, and sport is being it's down the priority list. So it is very much wait and see at the moment. It's going to have a an effect. Let's take the GA season for a second, because inter-county teams were meant to be back in January, then training in mid-January, then it was February. Now it looks like it could be March, so that's going to have effect on the National League, on the All-Ireland Championship, which is going to push it back into the club scene, which could push the provincial club championships and so on back into 2022. So it's going to squeeze up the season. But right now, it's very much wait and see. Like you said, local sport is non-existent at the moment. There's absolutely nothing happening. No live sport whatsoever. And it is tough on all the local sports people. And I'm thinking of people like yourself who play hurling with Skib and play soccer at Baltimore, but even down to the kids, like kids who play with their minis rugby or their schoolboys, schoolgirls soccer, or their local GA team. They're not even getting out they're not going to school first to meet their friends, but they're not even getting out for a bit of sport as well. So this is quite a tough lockdown, but I am hopeful that it's the short-term pain here in terms of a long-term gain, that this lockdown, however long it lasts, when we come out of it, it'll be a more certain future that we're heading into. So that's the hope I'm clinging to. But we know ourselves, in the last 10 months, things change very fast. Yeah,
I think it has slightly been overlooked for the period of this lockdown, because throughout the previous two lockdowns, there were various concessions made. Teams were still allowed train together, underage teams will say. There was a short stint when the GAA and soccer came back, but at the minute it just seems like there's no return in sight. And I know there are bigger issues at play, but it can't be overstated how important sport is to local communities, to people within those communities, whether they're spectators, coaches, committee members, players, the lads who look after the pitches. It is the lifeblood, and it feels to me like no one's talking about it. And I just felt that we could use this platform at least to try and bring the conversation back into the fronts of people's mind, because hopefully as March 5th approaches, they can start putting strategies in place so that they can run off all the competitions somewhat efficiently. Because we spoke to John McCarthy offline after last week's podcast, and he was speaking fearfully about the return of all the sports at the same time, and the competition there's going to be, especially at youth level, between soccer, Gaelic football, hurling, rugby, etc. And I just know from my own personal perspective that it's not going to be a very probably good year for Baltimore soccer if it's running at the same time as the GAA season, because obviously football will take precedent. But yeah, it's just something that I kind of wanted to speak about briefly. Just I can't wait for it to come back, and hopefully the government and all the sporting organisations are bearing that in mind.
It's even just to get back out training,
Exactly.
kind of hopefully, like as we're coming into the spring now, kind of, it's a cliche, but the evenings will get longer and hopefully the weather will pick up in the dark nights of January. We can leave them behind us. So just for adults and kids and any sports person, whatever level, just to get back out training kind of in pods or groups or whatever. And the competition then will kind of come off the back of that down the line. But just for mental well-being and physical well-being, just to get moving again, because January was quite bleak. I think this is a very tough lockdown as such, because it's coming after Christmas, and January traditionally it's a very tough month anyway, and the nights are dark so early, the weather's been so poor, so that's probably all adding to this kind of this feeling at the moment where people's heads are just kind of bowed a small bit. So hopefully that as we push forward, things will improve. But it all comes back as well to vaccines. We need to get vaccines rolled out. Everything ties into one another. So hopefully at some point in the next couple of months, and we are talking a couple of months, that we will see sports teams and sport clubs back out training, and we can push towards a busier second half of the year.
And the topic just came to my mind last night. I was listening to the sports news on the radio, and they were announcing the League of Ireland fixtures for the season ahead, and obviously the Six Nations returns this weekend. And I know there is money involved in all those competitions, so there is like reasons that they're allowed to run on. But this idea that, oh well, at least there's soccer on the television, we can watch that'll entertain us, like that is not sustaining me anymore. I want to get out for the game at 5-a-side. I'm sick of looking at Premier League games. There's one on every night of the week. I'm already sick of the Six Nations. It hasn't even started yet with the amount of coverage that was in the Sunday papers. And then the League of Ireland fixture list was released last night, but still no mention of when the Baltimore Crabs can get back out on the field, when hurling training can start back, when the boxing gyms can open. And it's just driving me personally, I wouldn't say crazy, because I still feel I'm on a bit of an even keel, but it just drove home to me how much I missed playing sport and engaging in sport. So hopefully it won't last much longer. But let's leave that rant there for now, Kieran, because we're going to talk to Bandon's Conor Hourihane, who has just joined Swansea City, and he's already hit the ground running at the Liberty Stadium.
Oh, he is. Like, he's had a sensational start to his loan spell with Swansea City. He's played in 3 games. The first was the 5-1 win against Notts Forest in the FA Cup. Then last week he scored Swansea's equaliser in a 1-1 draw with Brentford, a very important game because Brentford, like Swansea, are pushing for those top spots in the Championship outside of his left foot. As Swansea beat Rotherham, was it 3-0 or 3-1? So he got man of the match for his latest performance too, and he got on the Championship Team of the Week. So 3 games into his Swansea career, it's going pretty well for Conor. And up this weekend is Norwich City in the Championship for Swansea. And historically and traditionally, Conor goes quite well against Norwich. He bagged a hat-trick against them a couple of years ago. He scored a winner against them back in St. Stephen's Day 2019, I think, as well. So it's a game too, just touch wood, for where Conor can do what he does best. And it's been such a good and positive move for Conor. And you'll hear from now in a couple of minutes, because to an extent he was frozen out at Aston Villa. He hadn't played since November 30th. He was on the bench for 6, 7, 8 games, didn't get a look in. So he wants to play regular football. He doesn't want to be one of those players that's happy just to take a big wage packet and not play. He wants to get out. He wants to play football. He jumped at the chance to move to Swansea to the Premiership. Swansea are second in the Championship table right now. Conor knows all about getting promoted from the Championship. He had Villa get promoted a couple of seasons back. So great signing for Swansea, because he knows that division inside out. He's an experienced international. He's a very, very talented and skillful player, and a great move for Conor too, because he's joining an exciting project, an ambitious team, and it's a chance for him to get regular football and then leave him in a strong place in the summer. Because come the summer, Conor has 1 year left on his contract with Aston Villa, and the probability of him going back to Villa and winning his place back in that team, to be honest, it probably looks a bit slim right now, because they seem to be going in a different direction. They bought in Ross Barkley on loan from Chelsea, and they probably look to make that move permanent. I think they signed a lad from Marseille last month as well for 15, 20 million, another midfielder. So there's fierce competition in there. So Conor now has a chance for the next couple of months, put himself in the shop window, show clubs what he can do, clubs in the Premier League as well as clubs in the Championship. Show them, I'm Conor Hourihane, this is exactly what I can do, this is what I can add to your team. And I've no doubt that people and clubs will come looking for his signature this summer. So as you'll hear from him now, he's in good form, he's enjoying his start with Swansea, and he's confident of a strong second half to the season. Delighted to be joined on the Star Sport podcast this week by Conor Hourihane. Welcome to the podcast, Conor.
How are you doing? You okay?
All good here back in West Cork. Just for a bit of context for our listeners today, we're chatting the night after Conor scored his debut, or his first goal for Swansea. It was a 1-1 championship draw against Brentford. So that's a bit of context of when we're talking. So straight into that, you scored your first goal for Swansea on your league debut. That's a pretty nice start.
Yeah, fantastic. Listen, it's gone on. It's gone great since I've come to the club. I've been here a week now. We've had 2 games. Made my debut, my cup debut, let's say, because I wasn't cup tied, so that was a nice little bit of luck I had coming here as well to get some minutes under my belt. It's gone great. 5-1 win at the weekend, and a hard battling kind of performance last night. 1-1, and nice to get the goals. So in terms of starts, really, it's gone great, which is very pleasing. No surprise
to see you score from a free kick either, Conor. I presume when you actually meant to bend it into that corner, didn't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, listen, you just try and put it into a dangerous area, and you hope someone kind of gets across the keeper and makes it tough for him. There's no VAR in the Championship, VAR, so maybe if there was in the Premier League, there may have been a foul on the keeper. But look, it's some things go for you, some go against. But no, it was a nice ball in, and lucky enough for myself, I found the corner of the net.
There was a brilliant image just after you scored a goal, like you're celebrating and your teammates are running towards you, and you could see the joy in their face, because that was such an important result, because they pushed you back into the top 2 in the Championship. So it was quite an important goal to score as well.
Yeah, it was massive. Brentford, one of the favourites to go up. I know that the lads have done fantastic in the first half of the season. We kind of just started the second half of the season. Now we're kind of at the halfway point. The lads have done fantastic to get to where they are. The club are in a great position, and the lads that are here, a lot of them probably who are playing regularly at the minute haven't played in the Premier League. So there's such an emphasis and there's such a hunger and desire, to try and get promoted and get over the line this year. And you could see that in the celebrations last night. So it's great to come into a kind of a group who are really striving to achieve something. Listen, there is 4 or 5 lads who have played in the Premier League, of course, but the majority are kind of lads who haven't. So to be a part of a hungry group looking to achieve something is great, really. And like I said, you've seen that in the celebrations last night.
But I noticed too, Conor, you played the full 90 minutes, and it's the first time in a while that you've played the full 90 minutes. And is that part of the reason you decided to leave Aston Villa on loan and join Swansea to actually get regular game time?
Yeah, that was one of the main factors, of course. I started off the season with Villa and I played the first couple of games. Felt I did quite well, but listen, the club obviously spent a lot of money, brought in people like Ross Barkley. Game time all of a sudden became tough to come by. So I think my last 90 minutes was maybe the last international break for Ireland. I know I had a game for Villa in between that in late November against West Ham, but I got taken off after about 70 minutes. So that was the last kind of official 90 minutes I think I had was for Ireland. But it's obviously a main factor why I wanted to get out. Listen, I could have easily taken the easy option and sit around at Villa till the end of the season and collect my money and whatever, but that's just not the type of guy I am. It's not the character I am. It doesn't sit well with me. So, when I wasn't getting the game time and was kind of told by the club that I wouldn't play as much as I would like, it was definitely something that I wanted to try and do and get out and play till the end of the season.
How frustrating was that period? So from, let's say that West Ham game, I think that was the 30th of November, up until you made the move, because you were on the bench, but you just weren't getting on. Like I think we went 6-7 weeks there where you were on the bench for Villa, but you just didn't get any game time. So
yeah,
you said there, Conor, like you're not one of those players who just sit there and take the wage packet. You wanted to play, so you're sitting on there, knowing and believing in your own ability that you could make a difference if you came on. So it must have been a pretty frustrating period.
Yeah, it was. It was probably one of the most frustrating I've had for a long time in my career. If I'm being honest with you, listen, I've been very, very fortunate in my career for, in terms of playing regularly for the last 6 or 7 years. So it's kind of the first period I've had without maybe a 2-month period without playing, and I found it difficult. I'm not going to lie about that. I wanted to play. I was itching to play. Whenever I've played in the Premier League, I felt I've done okay. Rose to the level. So I felt a little bit hard done by from that point of view. But like you said, the club brought in some very, very good players as well. Spent a lot of money. The club are in a some clubs aren't in a great position financially, but Villa definitely aren't one of them clubs. The owners are very, very wealthy. They can spend a lot of money, and they have done that on players. One player, like I've touched on already, Ross, obviously coming into the centre midfield area. A fantastic player, and got huge attributes to be a top quality player, and he has been, and he will be moving forward. So it's going to be tough to stay at Villa and stay at that level, but it's something I'll keep fighting for, and hopefully this loan period can be a positive step for myself from that point of view.
When did you realise that you might have to go out on loan to get regular game time? Was there one moment in particular where you said, no, I need to move on now for the second half of the season and start playing games again?
Yeah. Listen. As you know, Kieran, when we speak and all the rest, I'm quite honest, and probably if I was being honest with you, we played Wolves away. Ross got injured, and the gaffer played Jacob Ramsey ahead of me, a young lad from the academy, which I was kind of very disappointed with, and that was probably the moment where I thought I'm going to struggle here a little bit moving forward. So ever since then, I haven't played at all really since that kind of decision to play Jacob in front of me. Listen, Jacob's a very good player, very young player with a lot of talent. But I thought at the time it was a hard decision on myself, and the gaffer actually came out and said that himself as well, that it was probably harsh to leave me out. But the lads went on to win that game, so his decision was justified. But that was probably the trigger for me to think I might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Because you've worked so hard, Conor, we've spoken about it before many times, to become a Premier League footballer. It was a target for so long. So for you now to move to the Championship and leave the Premier League behind you, albeit for a short period, was that a tough decision for you?
Yeah, it was. It was a really tough decision. I've been on a roller coaster of a journey over the last 10 to 12 years to try and get to the Premier League, and it was a league where I didn't want to leave, but ultimately I had to face up to the facts that I wasn't going to play at the club that I was going to play at. So the next best thing for myself was to play, and the opportunity came for myself at Swansea. The manager's been fantastic for me and told me I'm going to play games, and had that chance was something that I wanted to do. In my head a little bit, I was hoping for maybe a club in the Premiership to come along, but it just wasn't the case. It's tough in the Premier League. For people that mightn't know, you only can have 2 Premier League loans in the Premier League in any squad. So a lot of the Premier League teams do have kind of 2 loans around this time of the season. So it's not easy to get to a Premier League club on loan in January. So that was probably another factor why none of the kind of Premier League clubs came calling. So yeah, listen, Swansea are in a fantastic position, and like I said earlier on, they're trying to achieve something with a group of hungry players. So that was very attractive for myself as well.
How fast does a move like this happen then, when Swansea are interested in bringing you in on loan and you get that news? How long from that moment do you actually sign on with Swansea? Is there much time in? Does it happen quite fast?
Yeah, no, there is a bit of background noise and a bit of background homework to be done on this. It probably came to the surface maybe Christmas time, leading into the end of December, start of January, and then the club, to be fair, Villa were fantastic with me. They understood my frustrations. They understood that adding value to my career and for Villa's point of view as a business, the best thing for me to go and showcase myself again and play games and add value to myself come the summertime. So they were fantastic throughout the process. They knew the importance for me as an individual to do it, and for it to happen for the club as well. And so they were brilliant from that point of view to let it all happen. And as the weeks went on, then into the kind of the middle of January, it looked like things were going to happen. The signals were that things were going to happen, and it wasn't going to run to the last day of the window or whatever, which was important as well, because I wanted to get it done as early as possible.
And like you said, you've landed on your feet with Swansea, a club chasing promotion from the Championship. You're right in the hunt. As we speak now, you're second in the table. Was that important too, that you were joining a club that's a very ambitious project at the moment? They want to get back up to the Premier League, and they saw you as an important part of that jigsaw to get them back up there.
Yeah, that was hugely important. I wanted to go out and try and achieve something and be a part of a group of players that were just striving to get promoted. I didn't really want to go into the middle of the table and kind of be fighting for nothing in a couple of months' time. You can't get relegated, can't get promoted, and not nothing on the line really, so to speak. So I wanted to try and get to a club that were getting promoted and really wanted me at a club, and knew the value I'd bring to their club on and off the pitch, as a player, as a character, as a human being. So the manager, like I said here at Swansea, I couldn't speak highly enough of him. He's been fantastic in the last month or so to get me here, and while I've been here for the last week. And it's been a great start and an exciting few months ahead, really.
Steve Cooper, the Swansea manager, has spoken glowingly about you since you've joined Swansea, and even that experience that you're bringing to the squad. You know all about the Championship, Conor. You got obviously promoted with Villa 2 seasons ago. The season before that, didn't Villa or almost there again? You've played there with Barnsley as well. So this is a division you know so well. But it's also a very hard division to get promoted from, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very tough, to get promoted from any league, League One, Championship, whatever it may be. It's never easy. It's a long, hard season, 46 games, and maybe playoffs as well to top it off. So yeah, listen, I've been there. I'm not getting any younger. I feel like I'm well experienced now. In terms of games I've played and the levels I've played at. So I know what it takes a little bit, and being out there last night, I know the importance of that kind of point last night to come back from, a goal down, being down to 10 men, and to nick a point like that, to put it back into second place is massive. So, I'm well experienced and kind of, being around the block a bit to know what it takes, definitely.
You mentioned you're not getting any younger, and let me be the first to wish you happy birthday, Conor, because this podcast is going out on Tuesday. This podcast is going out on Tuesday, and Conor's the big trio. So let me be the first to wish you big happy birthday, Conor.
Cheers.
Any plans for the 30th?
No, listen, no, nothing at all. Listen, we're all in lockdown at the minute, and there's going to be a lot of games coming. So yeah, I'm not getting any younger. Scary, really, to say I'm 30 next week after moving over at 16, 14 years later. In 14 years' time, I'll be a long time retired. So crazy, really, some mental journey, and it's an age I didn't want to get to, but it creeps up in us all. And
did that actually have a part in your decision, because you're turning 30 now, and like you said there, a footballer's career doesn't last forever, so it's a quite short career, so you want to make the most of it while you can, and you're still in your prime, you're in your peak years, so you probably felt it's important too to play right now.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I feel like I'm in the peak of my years. I'm a little bit probably a late developer, as people would say. I feel the next probably 2-3 years are going to be the best of my career. They usually say between 28 and 32 are kind of the best years, and my 29th year, it was kind of been a stop start for me. Played a little bit before the lockdown, came back in the project restart and played a nice number of games, which was good. And just the last few months haven't really played, so I felt it was important from January to the summer now to go out and play. To get myself amongst games again, and put a smile on my face, really, and enjoy playing and put myself in a good position come the summer. I'll have a year left of my contract come the summer, so if I can put myself in a good position come the summer, that'd be great, for myself.
You said there, Conor, as well, 14 years since you left West Cork Shores. What an adventure it's been so far.
Yeah, mental, Kieran. Like, it's there's been huge ups, not too many downs, a couple of downs off the top of my head, losing the playoff final and things like that, but not, touch wood, not too many serious injuries or anything like that. Been very fortunate from that point of view, but a crazy journey, one that I look back on with great memories and smiles on my face, and remembering days of certain games and certain days of training, and just journeys that I've been on, and the people I've met, and the top players I've played with, and the people that have managed me, and everything really just rolled into one. It's been an absolute pleasure and some experience, and hopefully I'll have many more in the next 3 to 4 years.
And some of your great moments have come against Norwich City too. And like I said, this podcast is going out on Tuesday, and Swansea are playing Norwich this weekend. You hit a hat-trick against them before. You got a winner against them, I think, two years ago. So Norwich are a team you like playing against?
Yeah. I've always managed to nick a goal against Norwich. Listen, they're flying high in the league. They're a very, very strong side for the championship, and I'd be very, very surprised if they don't finish in the top 2. So, looking forward to it. Listen, we got, as we speak, we got Rotherham first at the weekend. That's an important game. If we can go there and get 3 points heading into that Norwich game off the back of the important point last night, we'd be in a good position.
Manchester City in the FA Cup is another big day to look forward to.
Yeah, Man City in the Cup as well. God, they can give anyone nightmares, so that would be an interesting one. But listen, you always want to play against the top teams, and when you play against them type of players, you see where your game's at, and the level that some of them guys play at. The top players is scary. It's unbelievable, their level. It's the way they play and they pass the ball around. It's second to none, really. And I've played against them a few times now, and it's always a difficult day, but one that you look forward to as well.
Hopefully in a couple of months too, we'll have the international soccer back. And I presume part of your thought process too is to keep yourself in Stephen Kenny's kind of thoughts. You need to be playing football. So for your Ireland career, was it important too that you went out and known to Swansea and went out and get this regular playing time?
Yeah, definitely it was. That was a big factor as well. You know, I feel like I'm kind of well in the door from that point of view as well with Ireland. You know, I've got 24 caps it is now, so I'm kind of, you know, well in the door, like I said, from international level. I didn't want to go into the March to start the World Cup campaign and not be match fit and not be ready for that, because I might have fell down the pecking order a little bit. So that was something in the back of my head as well. You know, I spoke to Stephen and Keith Andrews and people a couple of times about heading out, and they were, you know, really pushing for that as well. So that was definitely another reason that, you know, I'm in good shape, good form and good fitness come March, you know, because something that I want to do before finishing my career is get to a major tournament with Ireland. So, you know, that kicks off again now in March. So hopefully we can get off to a good start.
And you mentioned too, Conor, you have a year left in your contract when it comes to the summer. Is the plan then just to go back to Aston Villa and just to reevaluate where you stand with Villa, how things went with Swansea, and maybe what options are on the table to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the plan. You know, hopefully the 4 months that I'm here now to the end of the season is a successful one. You know, if it keeps going the way I've started, that'd be fantastic, and we'll just see what happens. Listen, I know the club are in a healthy position. Like I've said, they've just signed a lad from Marseille for 20 odd million. You know, so they'll probably spend more again in the summer. So we'll just see what happens. It's great to be a part of that football club. It's a terrific football club. You know, it's huge. The players that they bring in, it's a pleasure to play with a lot of them. You know, so we'll see what happens come the summer. And like I said, first and foremost, let's make this kind of loan period a successful one, and then go back and reevaluate come the summer.
You're chatting to us now from Swansea, where you are. Given the times that we live in right now, I presume you haven't even had the chance to go out and explore Swansea, see what you had to offer. Yeah,
not really. Listen, you know, I'm in a hotel at the minute, getting a club are sorting me an apartment next week. You know, in the hotel from people wouldn't know, I suppose. You know, it's key workers only, kind of in this hotel, kind of / professional athletes. You know, lockdown. Obviously, the restaurants closed in the hotel. The coffee shops are closed around, you know, swimming pools closed. So it's pretty quiet around here. But, you know, hopefully come kind of end of February, middle of March, the weather might start picking up and lockdown might be lifted a little bit, and I'll see a little bit more of it then. But it's a lovely place to live by all accounts. You know, it's down by the beach, it's down by the sea. So the little bits that I have seen of the city is really, really nice. So fingers crossed, you know, as we go into the summer months, I might have a chance to explore it.
What is life in England like right now? I suppose it's the same back here in Ireland. Kind of COVID is doing what it does best, which is wreaking havoc in all our lives. What's it like? What's it like over there at the moment, Conor?
Very similar, I suppose, to Ireland. You know, complete lockdown. You know, obviously in a very fortunate position to still be playing and still be working. I know it's not easy for a lot of people out there, but yeah, listen, it's not easy for people. You know, people are finding it very, very tough. So, you know, everyone's just, you know, sticking by the rules as best as possible. Of course, that's the most important thing. And like I said earlier on, hopefully, you know, come when we're heading into the summer months, things might open up again and life might get a little bit brighter. But it's to be reviewed, I suppose, as time goes on. And like you said, just complete lockdown, similar to Ireland, really, at the minute.
Thanks for joining us, Conor. The big thing, stay safe over and best of luck in the second half of the season. And again, happy birthday and enjoy whatever celebrations you have.
Good man. Cheers. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Now, Kieran, you have been speaking to Jason Collins, who at just 29 has been appointed chairperson of St Mary's GAA Club. Firstly, is this man out of his mind? And secondly, what had he to say to you about his plans for the role?
I think this is a brilliant story. I absolutely love this story, Jack. To see a young fella like Jason, like you said, 29 years of age, take on the responsibility of being his own GAA club chairman. It's great to see, because whatever the county, any GAA club or any sporting club will tell you how hard it is to attract new blood in, how hard it is to get in young people to fill administrative roles like this. But St Mary's have turned it on its head, because Jason, now with 29 years of age, is gone in as club chairman. But 3 or 4 more active club members and players have taken on different roles, from PRO to secretary to coaching officer to assistant treasurer. So it's great to see that the players of St Mary's have stepped up to help out their club. Jason, he knows he's going in at the deep end here. He was vice chairman for 2 years before. I think it was 2017 and 2018 with Mary's. So he has an idea of what the administration side of the club entails. But he's gone in right at the deep end here. But as you'll hear from him now, he's excited about the challenge. But I suppose he accepts and he acknowledges too that it's a big job ahead of him. Because a lot of GA clubs and all sports clubs have been affected by COVID. There's no money coming in. Finances are a big issue. Fundraising is such big issues for clubs. So they're what Jason wants to tackle. But just on a broader sense, hopefully other clubs or other players in other clubs can see what Jason Collins and his teammates in St Mary's have done in getting involved with their, like I said, the administration side of their club. And it might inspire or spur more people on to throw their lot in and help out their clubs off the pitch as well, because the current players should be the future administrators, and they should be the people helping to drive on the club, bringing those innovative, fresh ideas, bringing that thinking outside the box that all clubs need, especially now. So hopefully, other clubs will see what's going on at St Mary's, and we'll see it replicated in other clubs right across West Cork, the division, and even further around. Because at 29 years of age to be your club chairman is some going. She's at 29 years of age, I could barely spell my name, not to mind be a club chairperson. So he's really impressive stuff by Jason. We're joined now on the podcast by, I would say, the youngest chairperson in West Cork GA at the moment, Jason Collins of St Mary's GA Club. Jason is still obviously a dual player with St Mary's, but as a 29-year-old, you've now taken on the chairperson's role in St Mary's GA Club. First off, congratulations, and second off, can you fill me in the background to this, Jason?
Yeah, thanks very much. So still playing away at the moment, hurling and football with the adult teams. We did a bit, say, leading up to the West Cork final, and after that we did a bit of discussions with trying to help out a bit more in the future, especially with COVID. I felt that I probably had a bit more time on my hands if I'm going to be. I used to be based up in Dublin a lot, so I didn't have the time to be fulfilling roles. And know that I should be based back in Cork a lot more, that I said that I could get involved a bit better. And then met with Stephen and Jory Sharton, who would be secretary and the treasurer before Christmas. And they just asked me would I be interested in getting on board as a chairman. So I said I'd think about it over Christmas, and looks the way that the restrictions came in again in the start of January, I decided that now or never, it's kind of throw me into the deep end and see how we get on. But hopefully we make a bit of a change.
When you look at clubs right across the country, not just here in West Cork, a lot of GA clubs and a lot of sporting clubs in general, they're crying out for young blood, for fresh ideas, for innovation to come in. And like I said, you're 29 and you've taken on this role as St Mary's chairman. And I was just looking through some of the officers elected for the year ahead. You've Brian Corcoran got in as assistant secretary. You've Stephen White as secretary. You've Gerard Harrington as the PRO. Brian Everett as the coaching officer. A lot of these fellas are still playing ball as well. So was that a conscious effort by you all to throw your lot and give something back into Mary's now?
Yeah, it definitely was. To be fair to Stephen White was secretary as well last year. He did a fabulous job. Then you had Jory Sharton, who is treasurer. He was there with the last couple of years. He's doing tremendous work as well. And then it's a case that we said, look, we may as well try and add to the team for this year. And Gerard Harrington said he was willing to do the PRO for us. And when we reached out into the club, the GA players WhatsApp group looking for a player or a coach officer, Brian Everard said he'd step up and take on that role. So it's absolutely brilliant that everyone's willing to help out. The way things are going, we had our AGM last Thursday night, and it was our first Microsoft Teams meeting, and I think it was new to a lot of people. So look, it's probably going to go that way for the next couple of months as well. So it's a bit easier than what it was normal. like we'd have been travelling. Brian Everard's based out of Tipperary. As I said, I would have been based between Dublin and Cork. So if it's Teams meetings now, we should be able to access those meetings from wherever we are in Ireland, and we should be able to keep ourselves in the loop between emails and WhatsApp groups. So I think hopefully we should know what's happening more or less all the time in the club if we can.
Have you always had interest in the administrative side of the sport? Because you were filling me in before, Jason, that you were previously a vice chairperson of the club for 2 years, and that was back in, was it 2017 or 18 and 19? So had you always an interest in getting involved in that side of the club?
I did. Look, I just wanted to help out as much as I could. That's probably the main thing. I would have been vice chairman to chairperson at the time, Mary Driscoll. And to be fair, Mary Driscoll was very good, and she still is. She'll be an active member for the club in the year to come as well. And she taught me a lot of what the ins and outs of the club, the difficulties and where they are. And then it was a case that I was approached to take the chairman role, I'd say a couple of years ago, but then I just said, look, with Dublin, there's no point me take it. Like, it's only going to be a negative on the club if I took it. So then this year I said I'd think about it, and I think it's time to maybe hopefully step up and just try and bring a bit of a community spirit back into the club. It's not easy to run any club at the moment. I see that now in the last couple of weeks, and the AGM and the reports of where we are at the moment, and how the last year has affected us. So it's going to take a big effort from everyone to get involved. Doesn't matter if you are a club officer or not. This is going to be a club. It's going to be the community. It's going to be everyone getting involved, rowing in the same direction, and please God, turn things around and make sure that there's a club there for the next generation to come.
What do you think the big challenges are for you as chairperson coming into this role? It's multiple things really. As I said, it is pretty much new to me at the moment. With work, I'd be dealing with a lot with people. Financial side of things, be dealing a lot with that. It's just going to be taking, maybe my role at work is probably very serious professional, and this is a community, and I need to probably find a balance between the community and driving people on. So it's a case of finding the happy medium there and trying to keep everyone happy. That's probably the biggest challenge I'm going to find, is just like what you can't turn everything over in a couple of weeks or months. This is going to be a long-term process in developing and bringing in funds, especially for the club. So it's funds over the next year or so is going to be the biggest thing. Last year we suffered big time, COVID, lotto sales. When we didn't have the lotto, we didn't have sales, we had no income. Expenses are still there. You still had your affiliation for the teams. You still had to cut the grass. You still had to do the maintenance on the pitches. They were all there. There's still costs and there's no income against them. So this year it's a case that we really need to have a look at fundraising and start trying to get, as I said, get all the parents involved and get all the communities around us involved. And hopefully if everyone can come together and just spread the word and get a bit of community spirit back, hopefully we should make a bit of progress. You talk about community spirit. One thing that jumps out to me was last year when St. Mary's and Inniskeen Camogie, you came together for a fantastic fundraiser and raised a lot of money for Pieta House early last year. Like, off the pitch, there's a very strong community there, Jason, that you're hoping to tap into.
Yeah, exactly. I say like the Inniskeen Camogie would be an active member in our GA pitches. They'll have another team as well this year competing at adult level, which is great. It's brilliant. They're playing senior hurling, our Camogie with in the championship. So look, they're going to be very busy and very active around the place, and it's important that we support them and they support us, and that it's the same with the BIDA organisation, who would own the old pitch, as we call it, the pitch in Ballineen. So we need to obviously work with them and make sure that the grounds are in good order at all times for both parties, that the kids, when they're coming down to play in the playground, have a facility there if they want to go down to the pitch and puck around or kick around. So it's important that we maintain the facilities that we have, and we do have great facilities. So it's important that any new family coming into the area or any new house being built around the place, that we also give them an option, that there is community spirit there. There's something for the kids to go down and take part of. I know with COVID at the moment, you go down to the pitch, they're empty and it's small but depressing. But when things do open up again, there'll be nothing better to see than all the 6s, 8s, 10-year-olds out on one side of the pitch. Then you've got your 14, 16s, 18 groups in another part, and then say the girls teams and our adult teams taking part as well. When things are going well, the crowd down there is massive, and it's just a case of everyone supporting the club now is the next step.
You actually hope, Jason, that you can use your young, like we said, you're 29, you can use that to your advantage as well as all the other younger members of the board, because you're going to bring this energy, this enthusiasm, this drive, these fresh, innovative ideas. And like you said there, fundraising is so important. So having so many young people involved in the St. Mary's board can help the club in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. We've already, we had our AGM last Thursday night. We already had our first meeting on Saturday, and fundraising is number one priority on the list for the year. If you don't have income, and if you're continuing to have losses every year, your club won't sustain it. That's the last thing we want to happen. We need to have funds there to support the underage committees, the underage clubs, teams. So it's important that there is money coming in against the expenditure we have. We've already started a last man standing recently, and we had 358 names, which is the biggest we've ever had to date. So it's one step in the right direction, but we've multiple more to come.
St. Mary's Club, you've had some tremendous chair people before, none more so than the great late John Corcoran. What do you think John would say looking down now, seeing such young, energetic blood coming into the club?
Yeah, hopefully he'd be proud of it. John was brilliant for the club. His presence was felt all over the county, all over the country. He could go up to Dublin and people would know him and call out for his advice and things. He would have been very good to me growing up with underage teams, if it was training teams, even trying to get onto development squads myself. He would have been always a person that you could rely on to give you a helping hand at any stage. He's a big loss around the place, probably a massive loss for us in our networks with Cork County boards, West Cork boards. He always had his word, whether it be good or bad, but he had his say, and he'll be always associated with St. Mary's, which is a good thing. And hopefully we get a couple of more names to add to the list as well.
Off the field, you're hoping to make an impact in your new role, but I think the good news for Mary's supporters everywhere is on the pitch, you're still going to do what you do best. You're still going to be playing for both teams this year. Yeah,
that's the plan anyway. We'll see. It took I got injured a couple of years ago and took a year out, and I think it's after helping me some bit. So I'll continue for as long as I can go anyway. Hopefully, I think the team from last year is more or less staying as is, which is a good thing for us. Even though we're a small community, numbers are tight, as every other club is probably feeling the same down in West Cork. So it's important that we hold on to everyone. So please God, we don't have any injuries and we can field two strong teams again for the coming year.
Just on the hurlers for a second, you got to the Carbery Junior final last year, came up just short against Clonakilty, but you must take great belief from that too, that you came so close. Like it's a matter of inches. Like you're not too far away from getting to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, and it's probably a big shock for us this year. Like we got so close, probably just lacked that small bit of killer instinct that Clan had. They got 2 goal chances, buried them. We had a couple of goal chances and just failed to take them. So it could have gone either way, as you said. But at least we were there, and at least we competed at the highest level. We took on some serious teams along the way. Diarra Mahunas, Ballinascarty, and then Clan. like they're all the top teams that you want to be playing year in, year out. And previously would have probably been losing first round, knocked out. You're learning nothing from it. There's no real benefit. When we've a young squad there now at the moment, and having those couple of wins under our belt, hopefully we can build on it. And please God, the luck might change, and we'll be able to take those chances when they come the next time.
And final question, Jason. And like I said there, it's great to see so many young people involved in the St. Mary's board now. And if you look at GA boards or clubs, top tables of clubs in general, like I said earlier, they are struggling to get younger people on board. Like, what would you say to young people like your age, even a bit older, kind of just to give them that bit of encouragement to throw their lot in with the club and to give something back? Because it's very important that clubs have those fresh people, those new people coming through, those fresh ideas, just to keep the whole thing moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think you do need young blood, or you do need a new head in around the place, and just share ideas, because like that, it's unfair on the people to be continually going every year, trying to bring the club to new stages, and then next thing, more or less, as I say, a club is just more, it's community more than anything. It's not a business. There is no real benefit for someone to take them to the next step. More or less, it's usually just advice and what you should have done too late. Hindsight is great, but if people can come together and give their ideas at the start and push things on, it will only benefit the club. It will benefit the next generation that comes after us. It will just help everyone in a whole. Like, looking down in the pitches at the moment and not seeing anyone, it's demoralizing. Like, we hope to get everyone back out there again and playing, get community spirit back there. There's nothing like a good feel-good factor than running around the pitch for an hour and having some bit of fitness and having a bit of fresh air. It'll be nice to have some bit of something to look forward to in the evenings when we do go back. But as I said, it's not fair on the people to be trying to run the show every year. Like, we need everyone to help out going forward.
No, fair dues to you, Jason, and everyone who's got involved in the St. Mary's board. I just want to wish you the best success on and off the pitch this year.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. And before we wrap up, we're going to preview what's coming up in this week's Southern Star, or Kieran, in this case, what's not coming up in this week's Southern Star.
This is an exceptional star on Thursday, Jack, even by our standards. I think it's going to be a really, really good read for all the star readers. And what it provides too in these times, it's escapism from the reality of what's going on around us. So get Thursday Southern Star and lose yourself in our sports section. Taking pride of place is an interview I have with Damien O'Neill. He's the former Bantry Blues footballer, their midfield maestro, their main man, their general. He captained Bantry to county senior football titles in 1995 and 1998. He was captain of the Cork team that won the All-Ireland back in, it was 93 or 94. This man, as a footballer, had it all as a midfielder. But when he got his chance with Cork, injury struck and it scuppered him. It fecked him up royally, to be quite honest with you. He ruptured his cruciate in May 1997 and he spent 12 months out, and he was never the same player after that. So I caught up with Damien to talk about his inter-county career that never was as such, because when I told a couple of people I was doing this interview, Dennis Hurley got back to me, and Dennis said that Damien O'Neill is the greatest Cork footballer that Cork never had. He was that good, he was that highly rated. So I tracked down Larry Tompkins too to get his thoughts on Damien O'Neill, just to see how good Damien O'Neill was in his prime. And Larry said that Damien was the player that he hoped to build his Cork team around. And when Damien got injured in early 97, it was such a blow to Damien, to Cork, to Bantry, to everyone. So it's a real honest, revealing piece with Damien O'Neill. I think it's well worth buying the Southern Star on Thursday for the Damien O'Neill interview alone. It's a cracking read. We have a lot more in there besides that as well. I've a big interview too with Fintan McCarthy, the Skibbereen Roar, who went on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. But after that podcast, I caught up with Jake McCarthy, to go into more detail about the back injury he suffered in March last year that has practically scuppered his chances of becoming an Olympian this year. So again, very honest, very revealing. insight from Jake, who's back on the water, which is good news, but he's taking it stroke by stroke and taking it very slowly because he doesn't want to aggravate the back injury that kept him out for so long. Other great news, Gavin Coombs has been called up to the Ireland International Rugby squad this week. He was called up this Tuesday to the rugby team. The bad news, Jack, is I had a column written, ready to go for this Thursday Southern Star, and it was called Super Gav's Time Will Come. So I was working off the fact that Gavin Coombs wasn't called up to the Ireland team when the squad was announced late last week. I chased down James Collins, the former Munster number 8, who's coaching over in France, got his thoughts, put together this really good column saying, be patient, everyone. Gavin Coombs' time will come. He's good enough. Just give him time to grow. It was all ready to go for this Thursday Southern Star. Then lo and behold, on Tuesday, Gavin Coombs is called up to the Irish team. So my column is redundant already, but I will take credit for the fact that I did say his time will come, and it has come, but it's just come before Thursday Southern Star. Just a bit sooner. So as we speak, as this podcast is going out, I'll be frantically trying to update that column to make it relevant for this Thursday, but it will be relevant for this Thursday. So we'll have Gavin Coombs on the back page of the Star, and there's a lot more as well in between. We have an interview with Kevin O'Brien. He's a young coach from Ballydehob who's involved with Cork City's under-14s. So he's only 21 and he loves coaching. So it's a great story there about a young local fella getting involved in coaching. And there's that and a lot more in Thursday's Southern Star.
Yeah, and that will of course be available in shops across West Cork and further afield from Thursday morning. So don't forget to pick up a copy. And if you can't make it to the shops, you can of course read the Southern Star digital edition. Just search the Southern Star in the App Store or go to www.southernStar.ie/e-paper and you can read the Southern Star for as little as €2 per week. Absolute bargain of the century. Thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube or wherever else you get your podcasts. Slán Tamil.